Do you remember Watch Dogs Legion? The third and final entry into the Watch Dogs franchise with the crazy concept of play as anybody? Without the massive hype from the first game or the interesting characters from the second, Watch Dogs Legion came and went without much fanfare or praise. Today, I don't want to play the game, I want to experience everything the game has to offer and finally mark Watch Dogs off my backlog. Watch Dogs Legion was released by Ubisoft in 2020, and with everyone in their home being down with the sickness, think we all can remember that time? You would think it would have been a major hit. But no, Watch Dogs Legion is considered a major disappointment when compared to its predecessors. Obviously, the big draw is the new mechanic and gameplay focus of being able to recruit and play as virtually every character that you see on the street. Game director Clint Hawking had this to say on where the initial concept came from for the game's new mechanic. The idea comes from the first Watch Dogs. A lot of the core team on the first Watch Dogs game was the core team from Far Cry 2. So, they were good friends of mine and I knew a bit about what they were working on. I remember when I saw the game announced and I saw Aiden walking down the street and profiling people and seeing little details about people's lives, it created this illusion of everybody being much more real and more fully simulated. What if instead of that being a little bit of smoke and mirrors that creates the illusion of people being more simulated and more real, what if we actually just did that? It seems like the game should have been at least on par with the previous games, but no, many complaints about the game surround the bland characters and story since they couldn't be developed around a main character, as there isn't one. I remember I picked the game up and put it down after only a few hours when it first released. There are more hacks, more gadgets, more characters and things to do on the map, but that doesn't always translate to a better video game. Reviews at the time of release seem to echo the same overall disappointment of the game, with IGN giving the game an 8, which we all know that after you take away the AAA tax from a real reviewer, this game would likely be a 5 out of 10. The sentiment from players is mostly disappointment in the story and characters, and a general sense the game is a step back from the first in terms of story and a step back from the second in terms of gameplay and characters. The idea of play as anyone is genuinely appealing, but comes with the monumental task of finding ways to make us feel and care for non-essential characters, and moves all of the storytelling to side characters like Sabine or Bagley. We'll see if they manage to achieve this task or not as we complete the game. So what does our journey look like? To 100% Watch Dogs Legion, you need to earn 40 trophies, most of which involve participating in the various activities around the map like drinking, darts, and putting up propaganda posters. And like any open world game, you have a fair amount of collectibles to find, as well as finishing the various storylines and side content found throughout the game. If you have played an open world game, it's going to be fairly familiar. Complete the story, empty the map of icons, enjoy the satisfaction of another game finished. The biggest challenge will obviously be getting all the collectibles. With any open world game, they are plastered absolutely everywhere. With that being said, let's hack into the mainframe and liberate London in Watch Dogs Legion. The heart of Watch Dogs Legion is obviously the new recruitment system. Every NPC has a schedule, a home, and a skill set. Or detriment, depending on what they have, with skills like hiccups, which just alerts enemies to your position. From a retired spy to a street magician, you're not playing as a hero, you're playing as a guy on the street. I wonder why this didn't lead to amazing sales. It leads to a problem I don't think that they truly solved. How do you make a player care about a character or characters who are non-essential to the plot of the game or could be forgotten at any moment? If all NPCs are playable, then none of them are really special or matter more than any other. You run through the game playing Where's Waldo, trying to find one or two interesting characters, but the game gives you some of the best playable characters for liberating various boroughs. Moving on to the visuals, something that Watch Dogs is somewhat infamous for as a franchise, we can be honest and say this game looks like every other modern open-world Ubisoft game. The visuals aren't amazing or horrible, there just isn't any life in the city of London. Maybe done intentionally, but where Watch Dogs 1 was somewhat subdued visually and dark and mysterious, Watch Dogs 2 was more bright and vibrant and captured San Francisco pretty well. Legion feels somewhere in the middle and definitely just seems too similar to really set itself apart visually in the franchise. My only major gripes with the early game is 1. The voice acting.
Are you with DedSec? Or are you one of those villainous bastards trying to replace the royal family? Sorry, what? The takeover. They're trying to replace the royal family with lookalikes. The bastards want their puppets on the throne.
One in your team is just some version of the same person. It really takes you out of the overall experience. The other is the overwhelming amount of icons on the map. While you can just focus on the story, it can be hard when there are so many things available, and that would be a good part of the game if any of the activities actually meant anything, but no, they're either collectibles or a simple 1-minute side activity like freeing a prisoner or removing propaganda, which are required to free all the boroughs. The overflowing map is actually the major obstacle in the 100% journey here, like any open world game. The story only takes around 10 to 15 hours to see the end, but once you add in the collectible grind at the end for cleanup, we're looking at nearly 30 plus hours to get the platinum due to the amount of collectibles. From data drives to audio files and tech points, there are tons of things to collect, and while we will save most of it for the cleanup at the end of the story, it is smart to try and tackle as much as possible when we factor in needing 100 out of 130 tech points across the world or 50 audio files. So we're going to try and grab as many as possible during the story. Over the course of your journey with Watch Dogs, the gameplay doesn't really evolve. You can unlock new things to hack, like riot drones or counterterrorism drones. The game has a lot of drones. These can make your life easier, but at the start of the game, one of the very first missions, might be the first mission if I remember correctly, they make you recruit a construction worker who has a large construction drone that you can ride on top of. And with this drone, you can essentially hover over every location and use your spider bot to take down and hack everything. If I can tackle almost every location this way, why would I use all the other skills or upgrades when since hour 1 I've had access to the best playstyle? This also led me to almost never use the interesting characters I was unlocking till far later, or till after I had completed the story, like the spy who has the invisible car, who I found was probably my favorite character to play. The cargo drone is just too OP to make most of the characters worth playing. Unfortunately, as we head into the final chapters of the game, we will just see how hollow the game is, as once the story ends, we are left with just a map with icons to check off. As we're coming to an end with the main campaign, we see our DedSec team rise against the different factions in the game. In their own small campaigns, you will face off against Albion, the private military group, Clan Kelly, the gang that uses CTOS to run a human trafficking ring, and SIRS, where we will tackle the intelligence agencies and try to find where Zero Day is getting their information from. Each has their own final mission, which is actually one of the more fun parts of the story. My personal favorite was the Albion campaign, where you get to end up fighting Nigel Cass in a giant drone, and you're forced to wander around the arena hacking his drone several times before you're able to finally defeat him when he comes out of the drone, and you just can shoot him a couple times. If more of the missions and bosses were like this, maybe the game would have performed better. Unfortunately, each of these campaigns feels somewhat disjointed and just leave me wishing there was a bit more to them. But with the different factions down, it's time to tackle Zero Day and free London once and for all. Now I know the game has been out for several years, but I will give a spoiler warning for the ending here for anyone who hasn't found the time to play the game in the last 6 years. There you go, you've had time to click off or skip ahead. The major twist of the story is that Zero Day was Sabine the whole time. Yes, the member of DedSec who has been helping you the whole time was the one behind the bombings and the destruction of DedSec. She wants to throw the world into chaos by making all technology go crazy. Unfortunately for her, we have a cargo drone on our side. And once her plan is thwarted, she decides to end it all and falls off a tower as London finally begins to settle down after the chaos of the last few days. With Zero Day finished, DedSec can finally begin to put the pieces back together. Now for the fun part, all we have left is the cleanup. Get all the collectibles, complete all the side activities, and free all the boroughs from Albion control. I thought the hardest aspect of the game would have been the collectibles. Oh boy, was I wrong. A trophy for recruiting a video game designer called Metagaming was the bane of my existence. And it's random what jobs people have, so you get to walk the streets of London, invading everybody's privacy, trying to find this magic person. And don't recruit a game developer, because that's not the same thing, even though you will find an absolute ton of them. This trophy took me an extra couple hours of wandering the streets. I looked throughout the game, but this was one of the last trophies I unlocked after nearly 28 hours of gameplay. I got so frustrated every time I saw a game developer, I may or may not have removed them from the recruitment pool. Maybe that's why the video game designers were scared of me. This trophy just doesn't make sense. All the other trophies requiring you to recruit a specific character are given to you by completing the different boroughs. But this one, nope. Just hope you randomly find it. Thanks, Ubisoft. And now for the absolute worst and most tedious trophy in the game besides metagaming is Fresh Threads, which you unlock for getting and spending 100,000 on clothes. After finishing the game and all of the little side stories at the end, I had 70,000. So I got to spend the next several hours collecting $100 to $200 from various sources, from ATMs to playing darts and completing all the pay stubs. I was still a few thousand short and had to go around the map, finding the small ETO drops everywhere to actually have the 100,000. And hopefully you remember to do all this on one character because, of course, it might not track if you do it any other way because they never fixed it. Thanks, Ubisoft. You cannot convince me that they didn't put this trophy in the game to sell boosters, because the only way to do this without the grinding is buying a booster pack from the shop. Oh yeah, there's a shop. You want to play as Aiden Pierce from the first game or Wrench from the second game? $20 each. Well, I can see why this may have been the final Watch Dogs game. Upon completion, I only felt relief. There was no excitement anymore, the story was long over, and the painful hours of meandering the streets for one character to appear felt more like a punishment than a meta joke, which the trophy was obviously meant to be. With my overflowing style and my team fully equipped, I ended my time with Watch Dogs Legion once and for all after 28 hours. What do you get for all this time spent? A platinum trophy and the satisfaction of a game being removed from your backlog. For some, that may be enough, but I for one am glad that it's just over. So what did Watch Dogs Legion do well? The construction drone is by far my favorite part of the game. Being able to fly over a site and take over with your spider buddy was fun for the first several hours. The unique characters, the ones you get for liberating the different map areas, have some genuinely fun skills, and if I had to recommend the platinum to somebody, I would do those first and get some of the more fun characters like the beekeeper and unleash angry swarms of bees to distract guards, or you can pick up the former spy and cloak your car after you have some fun with some of the NPCs. These moments were genuinely engaging and fun. I just wish more of the game had these in it or incentivized the use of different characters more. The unique traits of some characters almost make the game play in all new ways. They had some good ideas and bones here, they just didn't hit it on every mark. The bad aspects of Legion is more of just mediocre. The story is forgettable at best with no characters to really latch onto, and I didn't really care about anything that happened in the game. And the twist at the end was okay, but not amazing. It isn't so bad I want to rant about it, but it isn't good enough for me to really praise it. It's just mid. Nothing cool or unique to set itself apart other than the new recruit mechanic. It's another game in Ubisoft's long line of open-world blind box games, which they specialize in. The world is full of stuff, collectibles, NPCs to recruit, activities, but none of them mean anything. Playing darts is the same at every location. Each NPC just feels as bland as the others. And I can't see how detailed the world is from my construction drone flying over everything, since it's the fastest way to get around. The world feels like the Truman Show. It's fake. Everyone is acting out their day-to-day life, hoping I stumble upon them and recruit them into DedSec. But it just doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like anything matters in Watch Dogs Legion, and being boring is almost worse than being genuinely bad. If it was bad, I could rant to tell you how horrible it is, but it doesn't even deserve that. It's just forgettable. Now, the cleanup is absolutely one major downside of the game. With how short the story is, you will likely spend as much or double the time cleaning up various trophies as you did with the main story, and that is somewhat disappointing. Collectibles like the tech points don't even matter, as you finished the game long ago and now are only gathering them for the trophy and not to use them or the upgrades in a mission. Open world games do suffer frequently with having too many collectibles or small activities, but Watch Dogs Legion felt a little egregious with the amount of side content needed for the platinum. After 28 hours in the game, I would say Watch Dogs Legion is a complete and delete. I don't see myself ever coming back to this game, even to play and get the rest of the trophies. I have the platinum. That's good enough for me. If the game is in your backlog and you enjoy the previous games or open world games in general, then I think the game is worth playing. If you're a trophy hunter, I would say probably only worth it if you enjoy collectible grinds and open world games. If you want a great story or characters, then this game is obviously not for you. The game even gave me a final farewell, as when I tried to delete it, it gave me an error on my PlayStation. Thanks, Ubisoft. Watch Dogs started off on the wrong foot as a whole, with all of the controversy with the visual downgrade from the E3 trailer. And while the second game may have been received better, it feels almost natural for the final game to be somewhat disappointing again, like the first. It seems they overpromised and underdelivered. Sure, the new gameplay mechanic sounds interesting, but in the end, it doesn't really do much for the overall experience. And aside from the recruitment mechanic, what really changed from the second game? The location? They didn't really do enough to set themselves apart or evolve from the previous entries, and I think that was the ultimate failure of the franchise. Legion wasn't a complete failure. Honestly, I would love to see this mechanic come back. Maybe with some more time in the oven to iron out the problems that was faced in this game. If more time was spent to give us a reason to care about these characters or a better story overall, this game would have really been a hit. But with all the turmoil at Ubisoft, I definitely think this is the last Watch Dogs game we'll see. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. If you have a game you want to see me complete next, leave it down below.